Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another ship fitting guide for EVE Echoes. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Stabber Sniper. This is the Minmatar Republic's sniper cruiser, becomes unlocked at tech level 8. But it's quite an interesting ship. There's a lot more to this one than meets the eye at first glance, so we're going to have a look at its attributes and its bonuses. We're going to look at how to fit this in a couple of different ways, and then we're going to take it out for a combat demonstration. So, if you do find this video useful, let me know by hitting like on it, sub to the channel for all things EVE Echoes, ding that notification bell so that you never miss an upload, and of course let me know which ships and what topics you want me to cover in future videos by commenting down below. Now, if you do want to go the extra mile to help support this channel, you can do so by joining us on Patreon. Details are on screen now. Every pledge, every dollar really does help, and I'm so grateful to every single one of you who is able to pledge. And of course, we do now have a merchandise store. So if you've ever fancied representing the Catskull Academy, head over to Redbubble, link in the description below now, and check out the merch. That said and done then, let's talk about the Minmatar Republic Stabber Sniper. The Stabber Sniper is the Minmatar Republic's Tech 8 sniper cruiser. So if we head to their cruiser branch and climb it all the way up to tech level 8, there is the Stabber Sniper in the middle. Cool looking ship. Of course it is the Stabber hull as its main sort of thing, which as you guys know is one of my favourite looking cruiser hulls. I love how this thing looks. Mean, straight as an arrow, to the point, with a little bit of a dragon aesthetic to it. And it does actually get a skin. I'm not going to say a particularly cool skin. To me that's a little bit too vibrant. I prefer the Fleet Issues Halorange skin, but hey, at least it gets one. Now, sniper ships are a special type of ship that have a unique activatable sniper mode. Essentially what sniper mode does when you activate it is it increases the range of your weapons whilst slowing down your rate of fire and your ship's maneuverability. We'll come to that more later on. Anyway, let's have a look at the attributes and fittings of the Stabber Sniper first off. We have one drone tube that launches small or medium drones, 5 high slots, 3 mid slots, 5 low slots, 3 mechanical rigs, and 3 power grid combat rigs. Now, to compare that to the Stabber Fleet Issue, we're getting an additional low slot, plus an additional combat rig, and an additional mechanical rig. So there is a certain amount of direct upgrade there in regard to fittings. But hey, fitting slots don't necessarily mean a direct upgrade if you don't have the capability to actually, via the skills, etc., to actually make something with that. We'll come to that in a moment. Looking at the defense here, we've got a defense of 10,969. Most of this is in the shield 3342, with an armour of 2975 and a structure of 2634. Now, this is not particularly sturdy as far as cruisers go. This is on the more fragile end of things, but that's kind of to be expected. It is a sniper ship, and of course it is a Minmatar ship as well. Again, to compare that to the Stabber Fleet Issue, we've gone from a 12,175 defense down to this 10,969. The power grid output, though, of the Sniper is a lot better than the Fleet Issue. This is actually something that got buffed recently in the October-November update. Before then, the Stabber Sniper was absolutely abysmal because you could not even fit strike cannons to it without some serious skills and rigging. Though they have fixed that now with a power grid output of 952 megawatts, that means we can get strike cannons on this. Now, looking at the rest of the stats here, we've got a fairly small signature radius of 82 meters, along with a fairly fast flight velocity of 246 meters per second. Again, that is slower than the Stabber Fleet Issue, which had a 283 flight velocity and a similar signature radius. So you are a little bit slower than the Fleet Issue would be. Again, this is intended as a sniper ship, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Scan resolution is pretty solid on this though, 413 meters. It does mean you lock on fairly quickly. Again, that is, that's a useful skill to have as a cruiser. Decent warp speed, mass and inertia kind of give you a fairly nimble cruiser as well, which is really nice. Allows you to relocate and move around the battlefield nice and quickly without having to worry too much about preparing ahead of time. Now, in regards to the trait description here, the Stabber Sniper has a 5% medium cannon accuracy fall-off increase and a 4% reduction to medium cannon activation time for each skill level you have in advanced medium cannon upgrade. So you do need to be hitting upgrade to make the most out of the Stabber Sniper, which makes sense considering medium cannon upgrade is of course the skill that increases the optimal range and accuracy fall off of your medium cannons as well. Again, Sniper build. I can keep saying this. Sniper ship. The clue is in the name, sniper, but that would kind of be selling it short. Anyway, Advanced Cruiser Command then gives you an increase of 5% flight velocity per level, obviously 25% faster flight velocity, nice thing to have. To compare that again to the fleet issue, here, as I said, you're getting that 25% increase to medium cannon accuracy falloff and a 20% reduction to the medium cannon activation time. The fleet issue actually got an increase to the accuracy falloff of 50% at full training, but only a 15% activation time reduction. So it seems a little bit curious that the fleet issue gets a better accuracy fall-off. Well, again, that's because we have sniper mode to thank here in regards to the stabber sniper. That gives it a lot further range than the fleet issue can get, even though the fleet issue technically gets a better bonus. The cruiser command bonus as well on the fleet issue, 25% flight velocity, same here as the sniper, but that also got a 25% scan resolution and 25% sensor strength as well, which just helped it lock on that little bit faster. Hopefully you should be seeing kind of the differences here between the two ships. The stabber fleet issue can use strike cannons, but works really well as an autocannon brawler. The stabber sniper clearly is leaning a bit more to using that sniper mode with long range strike cannons, and that is the build that we're going to look at first. Because of course we are. If a ship has sniper in the name, then chances are that the first fitting that we're going to look at for it is going to be a sniper kiting build, because of course it is, of course it is. That means we're going to be building primarily for range, followed by the ability to control that range, then damage, then tank. Obviously, looking at range first of all, this means that our high slots are going to be medium strike cannons. In this case, free medium strike cannons. Now, they weren't actually free, you do have to buy them off the market or earn them out of storyline missions. I think this is less free as in beer and more free as in freedom, but hey, there we go. And that's your joke for today's video. Anyway, the reason we've gone for medium strike cannons is, of course, that range. Optimal range here, 30 kilometers, accuracy fall off, may as well call that 40 kilometers for all it matters. That means we're sitting at optimal at 30, and accuracy fall off dropping to 50% once we're sitting at 70 kilometers away. We can actually still hit quite comfortably at 100 kilometers, dropping to sort of zero around about the 110 kilometer mark. That's pretty long range, and that's before we've even activated sniper mode. Now, the downside of medium strike cannons, of course, first of all is the tracking speed, 14.29. Basically, if anything happens to get closer than that 30 kilometer optimal range, kiss the thought of hitting it goodbye, power away to range, and try again. Second downside, of course, is that activation time, 7.69 seconds, is fairly slow, but you can see the damage output of these things is somewhat monstrous. 211 thermal, 211 explosive, and 143 kinetic in the middle there. The alpha strike of these is absolutely monstrous, it's just they have a very slow firing time. So, what we're going to do then is continue that theme of getting range. This means in our low slots, Eagle tracking computers, we've got two of these. Fitting these to the ship increases the cannon's range by 17.19% for optimal, 17.19% again for accuracy falloff, and it increases the tracking speed by 12.03, and I've got two of these fitted. These do have a stacking penalty, but it is fairly mild with two of them. Once you add a third one to the fitting, that's when things really start dropping off, and the third one I just don't feel is really worth it at that point. You're kind of taking up an entire slot for very little effect. Anyway, you can also activate these tracking computers to give a 500% increase to those boost percentages. That means you're getting even more optimal range, even more accuracy fall off, and an even better tracking speed. Still probably not enough to deal with something once it hits the 30k mark, but that's why the second rule of kiting, the second thing to start fitting for, once you've accounted for range, is to account for the ability to control that range. And we're doing that here with a Scout medium micro warp drive. This gives us, of course, a flight velocity adjustment of 560%. That's on top of the stabber sniper already having over 500 meters per second as a standard flight velocity here. Thanks to skills, thanks to how we've got this fit, 507.38 meters per second. By the time we activate that micro warp drive, we're actually looking at nearly 3,000 meters per second. That is incredibly fast for a cruiser, and it means we're able to outrange almost anything that happens to get close. I say almost anything because, of course, if you're doing storyline encounters, you do get those pesky little interceptors that seem to be capable of doing 4,000, 4,500 meters per second. You're not going to be able to outrun those, so you do really need to kill those before they enter that close range. Power away from them whilst they approach. Blap them as you go. The second part, obviously there into the mid slots, in regards to controlling range, we want to make sure that we can hit those smaller targets. Now see here, I've gone for 3 Halley target painters. Ultimately, again, they don't have to be Halley target painters, they can be any kind of target painter. Ultimately, I just decided there's not really much purpose for anything else in mid-slots. If you're going to try and put a stasis webifier or a warp scrambler in there to switch off micro warp drives or slow ships down, you're still not going to be able to hit them with those strike cannons, and if you're activating the micro warp drive to power away, well, if you're looking at those interceptors, if you switch off the interceptor's micro warp drive and you webify it, you drop it down to say 200, 300 meters per second, you then activate your micro warp drive. As soon as you're 15 kilometers away, their micro warp drive reactivates, they get their flight velocity back, and they're straight on top of you again. There's no real point doing that. The only time to fit a stasis webifier or a warp scrambler is if you intend to actually keep that thing in short range and blap it with your turrets, and we don't intend to do that. We're intending that when things get close, we're going to pull further back and try again. So the target painters just mean that at that range, we are more capable of hitting and dealing higher damage to the target. So the idea here is you pull up in your encounter, you see those interceptors at range, you whack them with 3 target painters that massively bloom that signature radius, then you activate sniper mode with your cannons and you blap it before it gets close while it's approaching. That's the theory, at least. Finally then, in the low slots, because we had 2 spare, we can go to damage, which is the next thing to look at on the kiting list of priorities, so to speak. Rebirth Gyro Stabilizer. Obviously this increases our damage, reduces the activation time of the cannons. You can activate this for a bigger boost. And then we have a Disaster Medium Shield Booster. You'll see I've stuck to meta level 8 gear across the board here. This means, this is here just in case we take any incidental damage. It means we can power away to full range. Heck, if the going really gets tough, power all the way away to like 200 kilometers away, activate that shield booster for a bit of time, sit there while your capacitor recharges, then move back into combat and try again. This means theoretically the medium shield booster here you could swap for a second gyro stabilizer if you just want that little bit of extra damage, but quite frankly I think the 367.84 from those cannons is still pretty good for a Tech 8 cruiser. Now for the rigs here, the power grid rigs, the combat rigs, I've gone for a cannon collision accelerator, a cannon burst aerator, and a cannon ambit extension. Now, the collision accelerator and the burst aerator are, of course, increasing our DPS, increasing our rate of fire and how quickly we're shooting at things and how much damage each of those shots does. Plus, the cannon ambit extension here is giving us additional accuracy fall-off. That's how we're achieving that accuracy fall-off you saw in those strike cannons early on. The mechanical rigs then, auxiliary thrusters 3, these obviously increase our flight velocity, and higher flight velocity means more for the micro warp drive to work with. That allows us to pull away that little bit faster, always worth using. Because the micro warp drive is going to be a fairly integral part of the build, a dynamic fuel valve reduces the amount of capacitor required to activate it. Less capacitor required to activate the micro warp drive means more capacitor for other things like the tracking computers or repairing damage as required. Finally then, the final engineering rig here, I've gone for a targeting system subcontroller. This means when we arrive in an encounter, we can lock onto those faster moving, smaller targets that little bit quicker, so that we have a few more seconds to shoot at them before they reach a dangerous range. I think targeting system subcontrollers are one of those rigs that a lot of people miss, they underestimate. It's kind of considered, I think, by a lot of people to be the gate camper's rig. It's there purely to lock onto people quickly in PvP before they warp away. That's not true. In PvE, it is very useful to be able to lock onto something. If you imagine that you arrive on grid, the interceptor is 100 kilometers away, but as soon as you hit grid, it's starting to fly towards you, and it's going to hit 30 kilometers in, say, 7 seconds. If it takes you 3 seconds to lock onto it, that means you've only got 4 seconds of firing at it before it's now too late and it's in range under your guns. If the targeting system subcontroller means that you lock onto it in only 2 seconds, that's now 5 seconds of shooting at it before it reaches your range, or even better in this case, it's actually going to lock on a lot faster than that. We should get a lot of additional time in order to shoot that thing before it becomes a threat to us. Yes, really. Having spent the past few minutes labouring the point that this is a sniper ship, that means it's all about range. I'm talking here about a Captain Benzie special up close and personal autocannon brawling fit. Indeed, I would be remiss for not mentioning it. I would be selling this ship short. I know a lot of you like to fit your Stabber Fleet issues this way. Certainly the Brawling fit on a Stabber Fleet issue is an absolutely viable way to do it. Very high damage, decent survivability due to how small it is and how fast it can move. It can mitigate a lot of damage with a sort of pseudo speed tank, and it's got a decent enough shield tank to help survive any damage that it's taking otherwise. Yes, you can emulate that exact same fit here on the Stabber Sniper. And in fact, if I put the Stabber Fleet issue and the Sniper here side by side, using the exact same modules, obviously with the exception that the Sniper has an additional low slot, which has given us access to a gyro stabilizer, and it's got additional rigs, which have given us a second burst aerator and a targeting relay, then you can see here that ultimately you are making an upgrade by going across to the Sniper. It's not a huge upgrade, some bits go up, some bits go down, as we'll see here. Looking at the DPS, the Fleet issue had 555.82 DPS, of which 520 was thanks to the cannons. Here on the Sniper, the cannon damage is 663.21, and including the drone, that is a whopping 698.33 cold DPS. That is a significant upgrade there on the damage. In fact, the scan resolution has also gone up as well. If we're having a look at the Fleet issue, that's currently sitting at 526, whereas the Stabber Sniper is at 537, thanks to the ability to fit that third rig, allowing us to put in a targeting relay rig. Overall, in a natural state, the Fleet issue does have a higher scan resolution, but the Sniper can be rigged to lock on that little bit faster. Now, the other side of that equation, though, is that the Sniper has a defense of 16,904. That is almost 2,000 lower than the 18,603 that the Fleet issue had, and our flight velocity is lower as well. The Fleet issue had 583.69, whereas the Sniper has 507.38. It's not a huge drop in either case. I mean, you will notice the lack of tank on the Sniper compared to the Fleet issue, and it does move that little bit slower, which means it takes a bit more damage overall. But certainly, if you are into the Brawling fit, you can try the Stabber Sniper as well, and it is capable of pulling that off. Now, if we take the Fleet issue off the board now, so that we can have a look here at the Sniper fit itself using the autocannons. Obviously, the high slots are indeed free medium autocannons. Medium autocannons have a very high DPS, 133 damage. You can see here they've got 3 different damage types as well, which makes them surprisingly good against both shields and armour, because they do good thermal and good explosive damage with a strong amount of kinetic in the mix there as well. They do have a very low optimal range of 3 kilometers, but considering how slow and gradual the accuracy fall-off is, 17.42, it means if you're not sitting at optimal range, you're still probably doing very good damage. I mean, heck, you're 100% at 3 kilometers, and you're only dropping to 15% by the time you hit 20 kilometers. That means if you're sitting at 5 kilometers, you're still doing like 95% DPS, so don't worry too much about holding a perfect orbit there at the 3 kilometer range. If you have to be a bit further out, you are still capable of doing that damage. Tracking speed as well, for medium cannons, for medium turrets, 63.43 is monstrous. That is a good tracking speed. That means you are capable of hitting those smaller, faster moving targets. Though, of course, our mid-slots will help with that as well. I've gone for a Stasis Weber Fire and a Warp Scrambler. Doesn't have to be a Predator Warp Scrambler. I know how expensive these are on the market. You've probably seen that I'm just using the same one and sort of switching it between the different ships in order to showcase at the same level sort of gear. But ultimately, the reason for a Warp Scrambler is if we have elites in any of our encounters, we can switch off their micro warp drive. The Weber Fire then drops their flight velocity by 61%. That means they are pretty much dead in the water, and it's nice and easy for those autocannons to hit. Yeah, theoretically you could put a target painter on here instead of the scrambler or the weatherfire, but I find that target painters work better on those longer range shots. They help you hit something whilst it's approaching. Here with the autocannon Brawling fit, we're probably in the range where they're able to actually start their orbit anyway, at which point slowing them down is better than increasing the signature radius. At least that's how I find it. Now, because we are up close and personal, and we've got an active tank going on here, a Vrikalarkus medium energy Nosferatu rounds out our mid slots, with, of course, a Nosferatu, allowing us to drain capacitor from our targets to fund our own. This means that we can have the Disaster Medium Shield Booster and the Enterprise Adaptive Invulnerability Field running pretty much the entire time. In fact, you'll see we are capacitor stable with that active. Now, the Adaptive Invulnerability Field, of course, is increasing our shield damage resistance across the board, and we have the Medium Shield Booster in order to top up any damage that we happen to take. Very, very useful. Now, of course, the third slot I mentioned is a Rebirth Gyro Stabilizer, increases the damage of our autocannons by increases the DPS by increasing the damage and reducing the activation time, and you can activate this for a period where you have an even bigger damage boost and an even stronger reduction to the activation time, so you're firing faster and more damage per shot. Of course, if you're finding that the sniper, it is proving that little bit more fragile thanks to its lower defense and its lower flight velocity, you can swap the gyro stabilizer here for another adaptive invulnerability field. Heck, if you're going up against either armour or Galente, because they have 2 damage types rather than Minmatar and Kaldari having 3 or 4 damage types, because of course Minmatar will be using cannons. Cannons have 3 damage types there. Missiles, of course, do 4 damage types. If you are going up against armour, which only do 2 damage types, or Galente, which only do 2 damage types, electromagnetic and thermal and kinetic respectively, then a reactive shield hardener may be a better choice for the second slot. If you're going up against Minmatar or Kaldari, you can swap the Rebirth Gyro Stabilizer for an Adaptive Invulnerability Field, but if you're going up against Amar or Galente, swap for a reactive Shield Hardener. The reason the reactive is better against 2 damage types is because it's only trying to react to 2. If it's trying to react to 3 or 4, it doesn't really do much. The Adaptive Invulnerability Field is just hands down better. Now, I've mentioned that the Stabber Sniper is still fairly speedy as far as cruisers go. 507.38 is nothing to be sniffed at. A Ranger Medium Afterburner helps us pseudo-speed tank. It's not a true speed tank, but it does help mitigate some of the incoming damage, and we can run it almost indefinitely. Finally then, a Demolish Medium Capacitor Battery helps maintain capacitor stability. If we're getting neutralized or Nosferatu'd, we can use this to maintain capacitor stability. We can activate it to dump extra gigajoules in if we need a boost for whatever reason. Now, in regards to the rigs, I've already mentioned we're going the same build as the Stabber Fleet Issue, with a collision accelerator and a burst aerator. Of course, extra damage and faster shots is attacking both ends of the DPS equation, more damage and more shots. The third one here is then a cannon burst aerator. Again, it is better to have 2 burst aerators than 2 collision accelerators. You end up with a much bigger DPS increase across the board. You can swap that again for something like a shield extender, and one of the rigs that makes your shields bigger or makes your shield booster react faster, that kind of thing. If you wanted to like help make the ship a little bit more tanky, but I wanted to showcase how much damage this can actually kick out with the autocannon fit. On the other side, again, like the Fleet Issue, I've gone for auxiliary thrusters and a dynamic fuel valve. This means we've got that faster moving ship and less capacitor required to activate the afterburner, which is going to be going at all times. The third one then, here actually I've gone for a semiconductor memory cell. Sorry, I thought I'd actually gone for a targeting relay. Ultimately, semiconductor memory cell does allow us to maintain the capacitor stability. You see there, it's about 50% stable at about 50%. Thanks to that rig. If you're happy to take that a little bit lower, I would actually swap that one out for a targeting system. In fact, if I pop the targeting system on here now, you'll see that we still maintain capacitor stability. It does drop down a little bit there to about sort of 35-45%, but now our targeting has gone all the way up to 698. That is a significantly larger there, a significantly higher scan resolution, which allows us to lock onto targets much, much faster. That is a monstrous targeting there. That's right up there at sort of frigate destroyer level. Lock on very quickly, start applying your damage nice and soon. To showcase the Stabber Sniper in PvE, I'm going to be doing Freeing the Slaves Hard. This is a 30 million ISK reward Tech 9 encounter. You can see here it recommends a Tech 9 battleship for this, but we're going to be doing this in a cruiser. Now I'm going to start the first wave here doing the Captain Benzie special up close and personal autocannon brawling build. It's quite the mouthful. I'm going to jump in at 100 kilometers just to showcase this. This is the autocannon fit that we've just had a look at. I'm going to move on to the sniper fit later on. Now, some people have asked why I put the modules the particular way I do. You'll notice it's basically in order of activation from right to left. If it's one that I need to use most, it's on the far right, and if it's something I use infrequently, it's on the left-hand side. So anyway, here we are in combat, we lock on, and you can see how that scan resolution means even those hounds get locked onto nice and quickly. Hound 2s are, of course, notoriously small on their signature radius, but here the Stabber Sniper has no problems whatsoever locking on to either of those. So I'm going to set my orbit here at about 3 kilometers. The game is suggesting an optimal range of 3 kilometers. I'm going to hit orbit on that first slaveholder Hound 2, activate the afterburner, and you'll see that with an afterburner we're in excess of 1,100, 1,200, 1,300. Are we going to peak 1,300? Oh, it's getting close, it's getting close. And even from this range here, I'm able to hit the Slaveholder Hound 2 quite nicely with those autocannons. My drone's going in for some damage as well. No, we didn't quite reach 1,300, but hey. Anyway, on to the second of the Hound Slaveholders. There we are, 44 kilometers, 43 kilometers, 42. You can see how quickly we move in on these targets. And even from this range, well, okay, we can't hit quite at this range. What kind of range do we start hitting at? There we are, we're hitting at 30 kilometers. So once you're at 30 kilometers, you're comfortably able to start hitting the ships as you approach onto them. Obviously, the closer we get, the more damage we're going to do, and the more solid those hits are going to be. And you'll see that with the Adaptive Invulnerability field active as well, we're barely taking any damage to the shields. I haven't even activated the shield booster yet, although I probably should start to, as we're just about to hit. There we are, 79%. We're below 80% now. But still really not taking much damage. Now, just before we hit 70%, let's activate that and start moving. Now, down goes that Hound, hopefully in just a second, as we're orbiting the Bellicose 2 Covert Ops here. And you see, we shred through these. We shred through these, and we're capable of keeping that tank going pretty well. Now, with the Gyro Stabilizer active as well, 874.35 DPS. That is incredibly high damage. That's almost Faction Cruiser level damage. And in fact, in some cases, that is Faction Cruiser level damage. But we're orbiting, we're doing decent damage here to that Bellicose. We're not taking all that much. I have 76% capacitor. I'm going to activate the battery there just to boost that up. No real need to, we're not in any danger at this point, but I may as well try and keep my capacitor as healthy as possible, boost that up so that my capacitor can naturally recharge under it. Now, I'm actually going to try orbiting a little bit further away. We're going to hit 7 kilometers here. You see, at 4 kilometers, we're hitting maybe 500, 300. As soon as we start getting a bit more range, those damage numbers are suddenly a lot higher. That's because rather than glance-off hits, we're now hitting penetrates. Rather than grazes, we're now hitting penetrates for much higher damage. And you can see there, even at 8 kilometers, we're probably a little bit too close. Let's try 10. There we go, as we move out to 10 kilometers, see if that makes a difference here on our damage. In fact, yeah, let's set that as our basic. Yeah, much better damage numbers there. You can see we're hitting stronger shots now. Basically, that's the tracking speed of the turrets. Because I'm orbiting so quickly with that afterburner on, oh my goodness, the lag. Because I'm orbiting so quickly with the afterburner active, the tracking speed is struggling to keep up with that when we're a little bit too close. So by moving outwards to 10 kilometers, I'm sacrificing a little bit of the optimal range accuracy fall off, but I'm getting better tracking instead. That allows me to make sure that I'm doing the maximum amount of damage. It's always worth playing around with these things. There we are, 11 kilometers, I'm hitting 1,400, 1,019, solid damage numbers, and we've still got the gyro stabilizer there to reactivate in just a moment. And start doing some heavy damage. Anyway, I am going to now move onwards from this build. I'm going to warp out of this this encounter now, grab the sniper fit, and come back and showcase how the sniper fit handles this same encounter. We're coming now to the end of Wave 1. I've swapped into the Sniper Kiting fit. You can see I'm using strike cannons. There we go, there goes the Typhoon. Next wave is about to spawn. What do we have? 2 more Hound 2s, there it is, Thrasher 2 Interdictor. That is going to be our primary target. Annoyingly though, of course, the target painters have gone on to the onto the Typhoon there, probably the one ship that doesn't need target painters on it, but oh well, we're still hitting pretty comfortably on to that Thrasher 2 Interdictor. It's getting a bit close, so I'm going to deactivate sniper mode, activate the micro warp drive, and zip away to safety. I can keep shooting whilst I do that. You see, I'm still hitting for decent damage because very low angular velocity away from the target. As we move away, there we go, down, blam, that is blapped away on to the Hound 2. We're going to activate sniper mode to get better range against this one there, and start shooting. Still able to hit 1,613 damage, and we've got the 3 target painters on it now, so we should be able to do a little bit more on the next strike. Strike cannons, obviously very high damage per shot, it's just the time between shots is incredibly low. This is what makes them excellent for PvP. If you've got a brace of ships, you've got a full little, like a wing of these stabber snipers here, and we're going to deactivate sniper mode and approach that slaveholder Hound 2 there just to get a bit of a better shot at it. Deactivate the micro warp drive, reactivate the turrets, and then we'll put sniper mode on now that we're in range. There we are. If you've got a full little wing of 3, 5, however many of these stabber snipers, imagine pulling up into, dropping onto grid, you all lock onto a particular target, you activate your sniper mode and your tracking computers, and you just blap a target from range. You can see it's 2,000 damage per strike here. That across, what, 3, 5 ships? If you've got 5 ships all doing that onto a single target, that's 10,000 damage from literally upwards of 100 kilometers away. That's pretty insane for a cruiser, and these aren't overly expensive to buy or to fit. Let's activate the gyro stabilizer, get a bit more damage here on this Bellicose 2 Covert Ops. There we go. Obviously I left the micro warp drive going a little bit earlier. That has eaten into the capacitor, and at this point as well, I'm not entirely convinced that I need to have those 3 target painters on either. Those of course are using capacitor to have all 3 on. A Bellicose 2 Covert Ops is a fairly small cruiser, but angular velocity should be low enough, and we're sitting on within optimal range, so I don't really think I need those. I'm going to deactivate those. Just to save capacitor and start recharging. You're not truly AFK here in the sniper because you do need to just manage your capacitor that little bit, and if things start getting close you switch off sniper mode and pull away to safety. Now the difference you'll see here though is that yes, okay, the damage is a lot lower overall than the autocannon Brawling build, which is why I know that's a particular popular choice. But the damage I'm taking is absolutely abysmal too. I'm barely taking anything, and if I were to swap off one of those tracking computers for an adaptive invulnerability field, you'd see that I take even less damage with that active, though I just prefer the little bit extra range that they have there. Obviously I'm letting things get entirely too close. I shouldn't be letting a Covert Ops there get to 35 kilometers. I should be powering away and pushing that back to the 50 kilometer margin, but hey, it's so close to dead that quite frankly I don't care. The next shot should finish it off anyway, and then we're going to move on to the Tornado 2. And that's it. That is how this ship works. You've seen it now with the autocannon Brawling fit and with the strike cannon kiting sniper fit. It's entirely up to you which you prefer. The autocannon fit I know is quite tempting because of the amount of damage it can do, but I do assure you, especially in storyline missions, you take an awful lot of damage back as well, partially thanks to the fact the sniper has slightly lower defense and flight speed compared to the fleet issue, but again, the extra low slots, you can rig things around there to increase your tank that little bit more as well. Anyway, I am going to wrap this up at this point because I think I've covered everything really that I want to say here about the sniper, the Stabber Sniper. I do quite like this ship. You know, I like, as far as cruisers go, the Stabbers are one of the cruiser lines that I do quite enjoy. I just like them. They look cool, they've got a lot of variety and variance as to how you fit them, and certainly the Stabber Sniper here, despite its name as a sniper, is surprisingly effective as a brawler as well. Anyway folks, don't forget to go back and check on Tuesday's video to see if there was a giveaway this week, and to enter that if needs be. This week's one should be the Discord giveaway, you should be getting onto the Cat Skull Cartel Discord, a link is in the description below, and showing me what your favourite kill mail is and why, and at the end of the week 2 of you will be chosen to win a month of Combo Omega. Other than that though, thank you ever so much for watching right the way to the end of this one, folks. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in regards to the Stabber Sniper, indeed all of the other sniper ships in the comment section below, or indeed the other the Stabber ships as well. As I said, I love them, but hey, that's because I'm a Minmatar fanboy. Thanks for watching right the way to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!